Brand new Moscow Raceway, some 40 miles outside the centre of Russia's capital, and a brand new venue for international motor racing. Its inaugural race weekend is World Series by Renault, and the circuit has just officially been opened. Hello, good morning everybody. Martin Haven and Tom Gaymore in the booth, ready for the start of race 2 of this World Series weekend. The dignitaries, local mayor and the principals of World Series by Renault have just officially declared the circuit open, cut the ribbon and had a glass of champagne. Nobody offered us one, Tom.
No. Good job, Martin.
Know where we stand then, don't we? Yeah, good job judging by how much red wine you had last night. We are in Russia, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is Russian Motorsport Week. A week ago, the Silkway Rally was starting in Red Square in Moscow. Today, there is a street race around the Kremlin and this brand new Moscow Raceway circuit being opened by World Series by Renault. Well, yesterday's race saw victory by poleman Robin Freins. The young Dutchman becomes the second man this season to win a second race, and as a result, checking our newly updated by me points, the man in the red and white car who took the start at the front and led to the very end is our new championship leader. And Tom, the track brand new, very dirty and dusty and not rubbered in at all, and of course new to all the cars and teams. They might have a better handle on it perhaps today though.
Yeah, no, the big question mark yesterday was tyre degradation, and we saw here at Da Costa going a little bit defensive offline, not being able to turn into the corner, not enough rear grip. Rear tyres went off a bit quicker than some of the drivers thought, and this was actually the big move for the lead. Look, Sorensen get on the power too early, spins the car around. It was almost like a Days of Thunder moment, wasn't it? Because Bianchi, you can't see it from this shot, but he had nowhere to go.
It was almost like one of the Formula One demonstrations, actually, where they just do donuts at the end of the lap. A couple of interesting incidents further down the field, a little bit of racing. Will Stevens, who started 25th after qualifying, ended up finishing up in the top half dozen after a second safety car. This unfortunate incident took 2 or 3 cars off. Will Stevens benefited from that, and replay here showing that it was just a bit of an imbroglio after Daniel Move got off line in front of them there. In fact, 3 of the 4 Russian drivers in the field failed to finish yesterday. So that brought out a second safety car because an abandoned car. For a final lap, they were released, and victory went to Robin Freins by what looks like a fairly small margin. In fact, he was never really challenged after Sorensen. And in the background there, the yellow Dams car of Lucas Foresti took 2 of his rivals out, for which he earned a remarkably lenient 5-place grid penalty for today. So there is the championship. Robin Freins and Sam Bird came in here tied. They're now separated by 10 points. Up to third equal go Jules Bianchi and Marco Sorensen. And Nick Yellerly, who didn't score yesterday, drops from 3rd to 5th in the standings. A little bit of reshuffling behind them. But those are the principal candidates for this year's target, the championship. And Jules Bianchi, who starts on pole position, has the best opportunity to add 25 points to his tally.
The green flag, race 2, Formula Renault 3.5 Series at Moscow Raceway. This is the start-finish line, and this is the Managing Director of Renault Sport Technologies, Patrice Ratti. Patrice, great to see you here. How important is it that World Series by Renault is the first international motorsport event here?
Hello, yes, it's a historic moment here because it's the first time an event of international standing is in Russia. This track is a new track, Moscow Raceway. It's been built at the international levels, and we're very happy as Renault to be present here and to be able to organize this with the Moscow Raceway.
It's exciting to be on the grid, and the grid is assembling behind us. How good, what's the level of the championship as you've watched it this year?
It's extremely high. We have a very good level of champions coming from different categories, and they're fighting very hard. 6 different winners. I don't know who's going to win, but I'm sure he's able to go to Formula One day, and maybe several others too.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrice.
Thank you.
So, hello. Let's see who else we can find on the grid.
Well, that may or may not be Neil Cole starting a grid walk. Obviously, somebody knows. They're just declining to tell us, looking down onto the grid. So the grid then, Jules Bianchi on pole position, Marco Sorensen again on the outside the front row of the grid. Now we saw in the little highlights there as he was trying to take the lead around the outside of Robin Freins, just looping the car around. Let's hear from Neil.
We have four-time
with Jules Bianchi
champion
Alain Prost.
Alain, pleasure to meet you here at the Moscow Raceway. As someone who's driven in circuits all over the world, how important is that Russia has a track of this standard?
In fact, today it's a little bit historical, you know, because it's the first time that they have a permanent racetrack at a high standard. And for a country like Russia, I mean, you can imagine for Renault, for example, it became a very big market. It's going to be bigger and bigger. So having a race is, here is important, not only for the sport itself, but for the automobile industry. And for the people, for the crowd, you know, they get used to look at Formula One or races on TV. At least they see what it's on live, and it could be an improvement of the culture of motor racing, and also indirectly and on the cars on the road, because it's also very important, you know, the roads here in Russia.
And I watched you driving the Megane RS around the circuit yesterday. So in terms of motorsport, how is the circuit?
I really love to drive the Megane RS yesterday, because it's first of all, it's a car that I really love to drive, especially on a track like this, and it's very interesting because it's not a very fast track, and you have a very technical part. I'm sure it's not that easy, and also it's good on safety. It's a perfect track for this kind of races, perfect track for a school, perfect track to do a lot of activities around the year. So I think it's going to be a big tool for this country.
Now we're standing right next to pole position. As a Frenchman on pole, you'll be happy about that. Jules Bianchi, Sorensen, Pic is third. How good is this field this year relative to previous years?
I think it's getting better and better, as you can imagine and you can see. You have a lot of drivers coming from GP2, you have drivers coming from any kind of series like the BMW series and Renault 2 liters. You have a lot of Formula One team managers, a lot of, you know, you have a Lotus teams, you have Gravity. You have a big interest for this formula. It's a little bit less expensive. They get a big improvement in terms of performance on the car. You have now DRS on the car. It's quite technically very advanced. It's a good equity between the teams and the drivers. So we must say that it's not the luck that Ricciardo and Verne, they were last year here in this Formula and going Formula One, and also Sebastian Vettel has done a few races here. So it's quite good. It's very important to have this kind of formula just before Formula One.
Alain, thank you very much. Enjoy the race.
Thank you. Thank you.
Always good seeing here Alain Prost, still competing, of course, in ice racing and what have you. And his son Nicolas, a top-flight sports car racer as well. Well, with Jules Bianchi on pole position, one of the young drivers in the Ferrari's academy, he may be the next successful Frenchman to drive a Formula One car for Ferrari. Of course, Alain Prost had his turn with them as well. And Bianchi on pole position, you've got to fancy, even with the tyre changes and so on, that he's in a position to win this race. He has looked very strong when he's been in front.
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to say you got to fancy Jules Bianchi, but good-looking guy. Giancarlo Fisichella lookalike, and doing a good job in the Force India. He's in the Force India car on many Friday Grand Prix weekends this weekend, and we're going to hear from the Sorensen's team manager here down at Lotus and hear what their strategy is for the race
first
ahead.
on the grid, pole position is Jules Bianchi. Here we have Marco Sorensen. Hello. We saw him yesterday. He was quick, but he span. So tell us what the plan is with Marco today.
Just good start and good pit stop, and I hope will happen again.
And from your perspective and from the driver's perspective, what's this circuit like? Are they enjoying racing it?
Yeah, they quite like it. It's okay. They like it, both of them. And as I say, just 2 good starts, 2 good pit stops, and I hope we will score any points we can.
Okay.
Same probably like we have in Spa or like we have last time.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Well, strategy then to try and win the race. So Marco Sorensen from the outside the front row of the grid. And again, after yesterday's race with no pit stops, was essentially very difficult to make progress unless your name was Stevens W. Here I think perhaps the team have got the opportunity to break the stalemate, as we've seen, you know, tyre stops being used. You can use them anywhere essentially after lap 4 of the race, basically to the end, so you can use that strategy to shuffle your driver around and try and get him some clear air, get him away from somebody who might be slower in front of him.
Oh, 100%, Martin. You know, the teams now will have played a lot of strategy over the last night and this morning, talked through various different plans as to how they're going to approach, and you'll see a number of teams stopping early, try and give their driver some clear air. It's quite a short lap here, though, so you won't see the benefit of stopping early here as much as you would, say, around Spa, because you'll catch the back of the field very quickly, and even when you're going through back markers with the pace of the front guys, it's going to hemorrhage time. And so I don't expect too many people to stop too early, and a lot of the front guys, especially people like Sam Bird and Freins, they'll almost be covering each other rather than being ultimately too aggressive, dependent on where they are after the turn 1 fallout, if you like, because it's quite a short run to turn 1 here. And so we saw Jules Bianchi make a bad start yesterday and not really come under too much pressure. Freins was quick away, and Sam Bird will be looking to make a good start. He's made some, I'm not going to put the commentator's curse on him, but he's made some very good starts of late, and on the second row he's got every chance of getting ahead of Arthur Pic, who's enjoying some pretty rich times this year, isn't he, in terms of the qualifying form that he has. He hasn't really translated that into race results yet, and Sam will be looking to get rid of him, if you like, quite quickly, because Sorensen and Bianchi have a real chance to get back into this championship battle if they can clear off at the front.
Interesting, just we had a little shot with most of the people cleared off the grid there of Jules Bianchi's car, and instead of facing straight up the track from the driver's right, he is definitely parked aiming to the left-hand side, so he's clearly going to try and shut off Robin Freins and leave some rubber on his grid box before he goes away on the formation lap.
Well, we have Robin Freins here. Incredible day for him yesterday, pole and victory. And, of course, his drive in a Red Bull Racing Renault car. How has he kept focus for qualifying today and the race?
Oh, he's just a really chilled guy and takes it in his stride. Really good driver to have. It's a pleasure working with him this year.
And what's the plan for this race? Obviously not as good a pole position. We've got to leave the grid.
All right, is it good?
We have to leave the grid. Bye. Spasibo.
Spasibo. Okay. Neil Cole and everybody else abandoning ship and leaving the grid. Engines are fired up. And there you can see on the left-hand side of your picture that there's no question at all what Jules Bianchi's idea is from the start of this race. And that is to try and shut down Robin Freins, and Freins likewise on the inside. Beg your pardon, Sorensen on the inside likewise will be looking to try and find a way around the pole sitter. Arthur Pic lying in 3rd place on the grid, Sam Bird 4th, ahead of Cesar Ramos, who has, he is there on the grid in 5th. That's 3rd car back on the left-hand side as we look at it now. He was not on the grid yesterday. Basically, the car stuttered out of the pit lane eventually and then stopped before even completing a lap. So the 2 Lotus cars, 2nd and 5th in qualifying. For a new team, they are not having a bad time at all here. Cars going away on the formation lap. We'll take a quick pause and come back live for the race action here in Moscow. Cars on the formation lap around Moscow Raceway, ready for race 2 of this inaugural race weekend for World Series by Renault at the Moscow Raceway, this brand new facility just 40 miles outside of the Russian capital. We're at the halfway stage of the season. 4 race weekends gone, 4 still to come after this, and our championship leaders are all tightly packed at the top of the field. Points leader Robin Freins starts in 6th position. Sam Bird, who's 2nd in the championship, starts in 4th. And Marco Sorensen and Jules Bianchi, who tie for third, are on the front row of the grid. Left of your screen, the red and black car, pointing very definitely not straight ahead, is Jules Bianchi. And the black and gold Lotus of Marco Sorensen on the right-hand side. We're looking for 26 cars to come under starters' orders. And we'll cut away from that shot because it seems to have gone into freeze frame. That's the view back from Sorensen, and our starter is ready to go. Green flag waves at the back of the field, and there's problems. Start aborted. Somebody waving further back. Well, that will be Daniel Move or Zol Amberg, that sort of territory. So a second formation lap will ensue. And Tom Gaymore alongside me here. Tom, this could be a problem because the drivers, that is Daniel Move, there you go. The drivers have to use some of their limited pneumatic pressure to keep the cars in neutral, and if they're going to have to do it a second time, that might end up causing them a problem or two.
Yeah, if you've got a notepad at home, get ready, because I'm going to give you a breakdown of what's going on. These cars are pneumatically powered, the clutch and gearbox, and the reason is they, because of weight, they didn't want to have hydraulically powered gearbox and clutch and then pneumatically powered DRS, but the DRS has taken precedent. And so what that means is they have to keep air pressure within the compressor, and the way they do that is by moving. So it'll be recharging now, or within neutral they rev over 7,000 RPM, and that'll charge the compressor to about 7 bar. They need about 7 bar to get away. If they have anything under 7 bar, the compressor won't have enough power to engage neutral, and the car will basically stop. So you need, in this case, if you're on the grid and you roll into your grid spot, if you hold it in first, you're draining air pressure all the time, and it's that catch-22 where you're looking at the pressure going down, 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 and you know, it's like, are the lights going to go green, or am I going to have to disengage first gear, rev to charge the compressor, and then re-get first gear? So those of you that have raced at home, if you go to the grid, your Jules Bianchi, for example, some drivers like to roll into their grid spot in first and hold the clutch in and wait. Some like to select neutral and wait for the grid to form and then select first at the last minute. It's sort of, it's, you know, it's each to their own. But if you do roll into your grid spot with first gear and hold it, you run the risk of draining the compressor of air pressure, and that is probably what's happened to Daniel Move. So lots of information there. I hope you got that.
Essentially, it's just yet another little wrinkle that the drivers have to focus on the formation lap, as well as heat in the tyre temperatures, brake temperatures, and not running into the guy in front when he does a stoppie to heat his brakes up. So lots to be thinking about. Once more they come to the grid then. And again, Jules Bianchi very definitely pointing in, and Marco Sorensen on the other side very definitely pointing out. That is going to be the battle down to the first corner. Cars once more under starters' orders for the second time of asking here, as Nikolai Marchenko completes the grid on the left-hand side. Jules Bianchi on pole position. On the right-hand side, Marco Sorensen, the young Dane, on the inside of the front row. 5 lights on. This time we'll get a good start, but without Daniel Move. Away we go, and a good start from Sorensen. A very good start, third on the grid from Artur Peak. And on the inside, Sorensen. Bianchi swerved to deny Peak. Sorensen's in the middle. Sorensen is going to have the lead from Bianchi. Chaos behind. Will Stevens is off. Sorensen and Bianchi clash. Peak has gone through. Bianchi is slowed. Sorensen got through in second, and it looked as though... okay. No, that's Vittorio Girelli. Yeah. Yes, never mind all that. Let's see the battle for the lead, because that's all we've got. Bianchi is off. Bianchi is off.
That's Bird as well.
Bird is off. Both Lotuses. Sorensen is off as well. Now, this is a major blow for the championship. Robin Freins is our race leader.
Jake Rosen. No, that's not. That's
the other ISR car, isn't it? Unless Birdie's got out of the gravel. Looks like it might have been Rosenzweig. Peak is leading from Nico Muller. Nick Yellowly up to third.
Yeah, well...
Kevin Corjus in fourth, so where's Frines? Frines still running, yes, no question the safety car is coming out because we've lost about 8 cars. Well, there is Sam Bird's car being extinguished. Both Lotuses are there as well. We've lost Lucas Foresti, possibly not a major loss. We've lost Vittorio Girelli. So 5 cars out. Cesar Ramos, there's the other Lotus, of course, yes. Vittorio Girelli, we saw...
Ramos getting a face full
being rammed there.
Fire extinguisher there. We were looking at the wrong pictures, weren't we? We were looking at cars slow away off the grid when all hell broke loose there. The Lotus cars look as though they've got into Sam Bird, and the safety car is going to pick up Foresti. I'm
saying, do not pick up Lucas Foresti. He was pushed away from the grid. Anyway, so safety car is out. Come on, there's a lot of damage there. Is that Niblitsky again? I think it might be. It's either Anton Niblitsky or Mikhail Alishin coming into the pit lane.
But going back to the start, Jules Bianchi slow away again. Sorensen was slightly better with the start, but such a short run into turn 1. And Bianchi did what he did yesterday, where he bullied Arthur Pic, and Pic got out of it. But Sorensen wasn't going to do that.
That was all Bianchi's mistake, wasn't it?
And they were side by side then into turn 2. And we cut away at the last minute, but on the exit we saw Bianchi and Sorensen together. That's probably concertina the rest of the field, and Bird's having a go at Ramos there. So
understandably, I think.
Because he's lost a lot there, Sam. You know, he's the championship battle here, and Cesar Ramos has come in the last round, and if he is at fault, then Sam's going to be quite right in discussing that with him. But we have to wait and see and see what happened.
Unfortunately, since the cameras were going all over the place, you've got no idea who did what to whom. The pit lane caller was Anton Niblitsky. There's the Comtech team. Definitely one of their cars is out, Vittorio Girelli. However, the other one is in second place, Nick Yellowly. Now, the problem at the start, if we ever get to see it again, was that Bianchi took his eye off the ball. He was worried about closing down Sorensen, who had the inside run up to the left-handed first corner.
Well, he got side by side.
And he should have. Then, watch again. Watch Bianchi on the left-hand side. Sorensen on the right of your picture should be the focus. No! Eye off the ball. Tries to close the door on the guy on the outside. What was he doing trying to defend against Pic? As a result, Sorensen had the advantage. Nice. Now, let's see if we can spot what happens with Bird and the Lotuses. He's in between the 2 Lotuses as they go out of shot. We follow Bianchi rather redundantly. Da Costa tags Bianchi. Still don't see what happens to Bird and the Lotuses. Bianchi was desperately slow. I think Da Costa just arrived at him.
Bianchi didn't defend from Pic there. He's moved across to get the line. He's tried to squeeze Sorensen and drive around the outside of him. He wouldn't have seen Pic. He literally was looking to get the line and get the minimum. And this is on board. Look, Bird's gone up the inside.
And there was contact between them. And Ramos came in from behind. Very hard to see.
Bird's across the front of the pair.
Yeah, there was a bit of red, which I'm guessing was the front wing of Sorensen's car that we were riding with. Because the end plates of the front wings are red and the end plates of the rear wings are red. First lap incidents under investigation. Well, good luck with that, because I'm afraid the pictures we've got show us nothing of what happened.
Can't see anything. What we saw is Sam go up the inside of Sorensen as Müller walks away. Now, Müller had a disaster on lap 1 yesterday as well. He qualified in the top 8 yesterday, and he's doing a good job. Come from GP3 this year, and you know, he's not quite as quick as Sorensen and Frines yet, but he's there and thereabouts.
Second place in race 1 at the Nürburgring last time out.
And he's had a disaster on lap 1 again today. So not a weekend he will want to remember, but Sam will be ruining what's happened here, because this is the championship battle, because Frines is still running in 8th place. And okay, Bianchi is still running somewhere.
You've got to think that Bianchi is in trouble and is just waiting for the pit lane to open. Yeah, exactly.
And Sorensen obviously is not running. So in terms of our championship battle, Frines will be looking to consolidate here.
Well, and again, Nick Yellerly, who dropped from 3rd place after winning in the Nürburgring down to 5th yesterday because he didn't score, he's got a great opportunity to vault right back into the frame again.
Yeah, of course. I forgot Nick, so how can you forget Nick?
And Pique, Artur Pique as well. He wasn't that far out of contention before the weekend started, so he's got a good opportunity as well to shuffle himself back in because he was 4th yesterday. That's a big bag full of points. You know, Pique and Yellerly, this could be a big bounce back up for them.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Courjus and Rossi there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, for Alexander Rossi, this, again, you know, there's so many drivers here that have had a bit of an iffy time. Could go well for him too.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people vying for that final podium position, and it's going to come down to pit stops. It's going to come down to strategy. Difficult to pass around here. Only 4 kilometers to circuit, and narrow in parts. A bit stop-start, especially through the 2nd sector. Opportunities to pass at the end of the 3rd sector, but pit stops will be where we see the majority of this strategy roll out.
Safety car conditions here after 3 laps of running. Well, safety car actually after 3 corners of running, but safety car has come out at the end of lap 1, picked up the leader, Artur Pique. We have lost 5 cars so far, plus 1 damaged in the pit lane. Anton Noblitsky, and I do not think he has come back out. So Noblitsky has gone. Nico Muller we saw walking back in. Marco Sorensen, Sam Bird, Cesar Ramos in a 3-way wreck, and Vittorio Gorelli as well. And there you can see Tech 1 team boss Sarah Abadi. And unfortunately for her, her guy who was on pole, Gilles Bianchi, is 18th at the moment, having been hit at least twice. But the best Tech 1 driver is now Kevin Courjus in 3rd. We're on lap 3. I beg your pardon, we're on lap 4. At the end of lap 4, once it is completed, the pit window will open. I don't see the safety car coming in this lap. There are still 2 cars for Lofty to pull away there. So the pit lane will open with the safety car still out. Tom, you're on the pit wall. Let's choose one at random. Alexander Rossi, you're 5th, you're in the queue behind the safety car. Pit lane opens. Are you going to come in right now?
No.
At the end of lap 4?
It's a difficult one. Here we see a replay. Look, this is Bianchi and Sorensen got into the side.
That's the first corner, yeah. That's the second corner, rather. Yeah, Bianchi trying to shut the door redundantly.
Yeah, but Sorensen got into the side.
Yeah,
to be fair,
because Bianchi turned right across him. Where was he going?
He wasn't on the apex, though, was he?
He was in the middle. He was in the middle of a 3-wide sandwich. He had Pique on the inside, so he couldn't jink left, and Bianchi just came across and shut the door.
No, I'm not saying it's Sorensen's fault, but what I'm saying is that that's a racing incident.
Well, in which case, Sorensen hit him is not right. Bianchi turned in, and his car hit Sorensen's. Sorensen's didn't go right into Bianchi. Bianchi's came left into Sorensen.
Yeah, I think, you know, Bianchi's got to turn at some point, though. He can't just drive off the track, and he was not making his way to the apex. He did give Sorensen room, but obviously he's very, very narrow, and that's what I was talking about. And to get 2 cars through most of the corners here is very, very difficult.
He thinks he gave Sorensen room because he didn't know that Pique was inside Sorensen, the same way he didn't know Pique was outside him in the first corner.
Not that it's any consolation. I would have probably done the same thing. I mean, Bianchi did have the run on Sorensen. He was slightly quicker eventually on the exit of turn 1, and as the leader of the race, you know, you have to turn in. I mean, what would we have said if he'd have just driven straight off the track? We would have gone, what is he doing? And obviously he's turned in, and Sorensen's there. 2 into 1 doesn't go, and we have a racing incident, but they'll be fighting that out in race control come the end of this race. And we saw this yesterday, didn't we, Martin? And we took them 3 laps to get rid of 1 car.
Yeah.
Half the race under safety car. Now,
well, there's Sam Bird's car still there, covered in extinguishant, so maybe something got a little bit alight earlier on when those 3 cars came together. 4 laps completed, so at the end of this, or from now on, basically once the leader has completed lap 4, the pit lane is open, unless I don't understand the rules and it's not open because the safety car is out, but I don't think that that is the case. So Artur Pique, the race leader. Nick Yellerly from 9th on the grid is in 2nd place. Kevin Courjus lies 3rd, and he was 8th on the grid. 4th is Walter Grubmuller. And Grubmuller qualified in 10th. So 8th, 9th and 10th are 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And that tells you what happened to everybody else. Alexander Rossi has come up the order nicely as well. He's in 5th position. He qualified 11th. So basically, the top half dozen have vanished. And everybody from 8th on down is now running at the front, apart the exception of Artur Pick, who somehow managed to lead a charmed life through lap 1 and didn't get taken out by anybody, despite wildly weaving cars. I think his car is in one piece. There's, although of course, all his wing end plates are there, because his are red as well, but no, that's okay.
Yeah, Artur Pick is in one piece, and we'll be looking to capitalise on some of these good qualifying results that he's had and not really managed to translate into any sort of strong result.
Well, he was saying yesterday that he's looking to move up one. The last 2 races he's finished, because he didn't finish race 2 of the Nürburgring, last 2 races he's finished, he has been in 4th place. He's had 1 3rd place finish and 2 pole positions this year, but he has yet to get onto the race podium since the opening weekend in Motorland Aragon. So he wants to get back up into a podium position, and of course, once you're in the podium positions, what you really want is to be on the top step, not the next one down. But he's got a lot of very good racers right behind him. Yelely, Korjus, Rossi. Mikhail Alishin is 7th, the former champion. Can you imagine how mental the 100,000 Russian fans would go if the Russian anthem played out here? What a great fairy tale that would be if Alishin could mark his return to World Series this year with a win in Moscow. That would be amazing for a man born and bred in Moscow.
Yeah, it can still happen.
Yeah.
The beauty of the sport, and we've seen just in a matter of a few corners how quickly some people can disappear. So it'll be really interesting now. I wish, you know, this is where you wish you could hear team to car radio and that kind of stuff, because the engineers will have a big headache on their hands, and there'll be lots of conversations between the drivers as to what strategy they're going to roll out, and it's almost going to be one of those that someone is going to blink and blink early. Someone will try to stop early. Like I said, it might not be as effective as on a longer circuit, because you're going to catch the rear of the field quicker than you would have thought around here. But the safety car has helped that, because we're not as elongated as we would have been under racing conditions.
Yeah,
so
true enough.
There will be some early stoppers, but I expect that the front guys not to blink too early and to go slightly longer. The window is 5 to 17 here, and yeah, there's too much to lose for the front guys. Let's pit now.
Safety car coming in, and we're about to go green flag racing once more. Green flags waving there before the final corner, so they are being green flagged even before they get to the line. Not sure how that works. Artur Pick is your race leader, yellow and black of the Dams car. Then Nick Yellerly, Kevin Korjus under real pressure from Walter Grubmuller, who's having a look at him. That's the battle for 3rd. There is Korjus. Grubmuller dropped right off the back of Korjus in turn 1 into the clutches of Alexander Rossi and Andre Negrau.
Well, it was Negrau looking the racier of all of those top 6 cars. Rossi slightly slow away in terms of the restart, but he's managed to look, a bit of oversteer from that Arden Caterham car. It's just taken him offline, and that's just taken him off the back. And Negrau will be sniffing around that car now, looking for an opportunity. Difficult to pass here, though. So Alexander Rossi with enough experience and talent to keep the Brazilian behind.
We sort of wonder if he's sliding around at this stage, whether he's gone with a slightly lower tyre pressure at the beginning of the race to sort of even out his tyre wear. Maybe that's an indicator he was looking for a longer stint before stopping from where he was further down on the grid.
Well, he would have probably started on old and gone with a shorter first stint where he was starting, but that might have gone out the window now. Look at that oversteer again. It just as he's trying to get the car into the corner, it doesn't want to roll the speed. And I was trying to talk to Alex earlier about whether or not it's mechanical aero or aero grip that they're struggling with now. Negrau on the DRS and having a sniff up the inside of Rossi.
But behind, in come a slew. Everybody is in, look at that. So maybe the pit lane is closed behind the safety car.
Aleshin the first, Aleshin the first to blink, so he's the one that's going to gamble. I said
Korjus is in as well. We've seen both Carlin cars, no, only one, Magnussen and not Stevens.
We've seen this work out to people's favour. Fortec are very good at doing this. I'm not sure how it's going to work on the shorter circuit. Safety car will have helped it. Like I said, Aleshin will be the one that we've got turn 1. Jan Kuna running out of talent, gone straight on. But Aleshin's the one, I don't know what he's done there. Aleshin will be the one that we want to look at now. So Aleshin and Da Costa.
Magnusson just getting out in front of Foresti, does he? Yes, he does. And there is Aleshin in front of Nikolai Marchenko.
So where's Da Costa? Has Da Costa got out ahead of Aleshin? Yes, he has. So well done the Arden Caterham crew, because they won that pit stop battle. Aleshin was ahead of Felix Da Costa, and not anymore. So, you know, that advantage, that's one place, okay,
yep. But they all count.
They all count.
They all count. There's, yes, if the team can give you anything in the pit stop, that is a bonus. Artur Pick and Nick Yellerly pulling away from the field. And Artur Pick with the fastest race lap on that lap, 127.6, 127.8 for Nick Yellerly in second place last time round. In comes Robin Freins, and again the battle for fourth place. Alexander Rossi defending from Andre Negrão.
So I said Freins in that Fortec car. Fortec notoriously do pit early. That's their strategy. They make it work more often than they do not. He will be looking to cover some of the other guys, because for him, he needs to score points. Okay, he wants to score points as high up as possible, but they'll be looking at what Aleshin and Da Costa are doing and trying to cover that.
Freins is in, problem with the left rear. The wheel nut stayed in the gun and didn't go on properly. He had to go for a new nut, and that is going to cost Robin Freins. And that is very bad news indeed. And Freins coming into today's race as the championship leader by 10 over Sam Bird. Doesn't have to worry about Bird, but the others behind could capitalise, or some of them perhaps.
Yeah,
he's back out. Will Stevens also came in. Jan Cunha is in the pits. So we've now had 11 pit stoppers of the 19-20 cars that are running.
Now, the only people that would have been cheering at that caption would be the Sam Bird fan club, because Sam really needs Freins. Not that we'd wish any bad luck on anyone, but Sam needs Freins not to score points here. It's imperative. Well, not imperative, but it's important, because you don't want him to get too far away. As we see Jules Bianchi,
yep.
He's not looking. Oh, he's just driven all the way around the outside of Jake.
Around the outside of Jake Rosenzweig, yeah, and then runs out of grip on the curbs, but at least he didn't spin it like Marco Sorensen did yesterday. That's a good move around the outside there, but they've got to get a few more laps through on those curbs to get the rubber on top of it, because at the moment they must be like driving on talcum powder.
I mean, Jake Rosenzweig, thank the Lord he got that position back, because to be driven all the way around the outside of a slow corner like that would have been slightly embarrassing for the American. But Jules Bianchi, not enough grip on the exit, and Jake just did enough to get back into Bianchi into turn one. And Bianchi, we're seeing the red mist come down. We sort of saw this from him in Motorland Aragon, and he seems to get himself in good positions, but it...
Oh, Rossi and Courjus, and that was a battle for position.
For third.
Yeah, he was going around the outside, and in fact, Courjus is down in 9th place, having been into the pit. So what had happened to Rossi? He has not pitted yet.
No.
So Rossi has had a problem somewhere, and Courjus has... So why was Alexander Rossi so far back? Because he was in 4th at the beginning of the lap, and Courjus was down in 8th, 9th place.
Rossi's made a mistake, and he's recovering.
Artur Pick leads from Nick Yellerly by 1.5 seconds now, and Pick again faster, 126.1 last time round to 126.6 of Nick Yellerly. And if that is a tyre issue, Nick needs to get in the pits.
Rossi has pitted, so that was for position. So we missed Rossi.
Now that was
pitting.
Him coming out. No, he's pitting now. Because when he'd gone off, he had not been shown as in the pits.
It'll be red. He has stopped.
He had not stopped when we saw that, because I looked at the screen to see if he was just coming back out. It must have been as he was coming back out, because he is on his outlap. And Andre Negrão and Walter Grubmüller both in the pits and out again. So far, we have Pick and Yellerly you're looking at, Rosenzweig 3rd, Bianchi 4th, Huertas in 5th. Those are the only drivers not to have stopped. Top stopped driver is Kevin Courjus, ahead of Alexander Rossi and Antonio Felix da Costa. So that is a bit of a shuffle around. Courjus has got in front of Rossi and da Costa as well.
it'll be interesting to see, because last lap was a 1:53.7 from Rossi.
That was his out lap.
But they clashed in sector 1, didn't they?
Yeah, so that must have been Courjus on hot tyres and Rossi on cold tyres straight out of the pit lane.
Yeah, so,
right.
so Rossi had stopped. So that was for position. That was effectively third place.
And this is the battle now for third place, because you can see Rosenzweig into the pit lane. Bianchi won't have to go over the curbs, and behind him Carlos Huertas. So Bianchi up to third on the road, but yet to stop. So now, is he just going to keep running until basically he's got no tyre left? We have to look at his lap times to see whether that's going to work.
Yeah, it all boils down to tyre deg and also where he is in terms of track position, because if he starts to pick up people that are stopped and that are slow, then he's just going to hemorrhage time. So he's just going to roll the dice for as long as possible.
Rosenzweig has a second bite of the cherry of getting stopped on his marks.
Pretty dusty there, wasn't it?
Rear tyre, yeah, well, you know, that's all part of the problem with the brand new facility. You know,
rear, again, same as Fortec.
You might be able to clean the track up a bit, but yeah, everything else is just covered in concrete dust.
Yeah.
Reminds me of going to Ordos. So Pick, Yellowly, Bianchi, Huertas, the non-stoppers. That is Freins trying to go around the outside.
And these were the two guys that had problems with their left rear.
And Freins was 15th when Rosenzweig came in from third place. So this is the battle for 14th, 15th position, something like that, ahead of Marchenko and Foresti. 15th place it's being shown as now. Piccignelli last time round, 26.1s to the 26.9 of Bianchi, but he was stuck behind Rosenzweig. This time round, Piccignelli yet to stop, 1 minute 25.7, 1 minute 25.8, and Bianchi 1 minute 25.8. So he is going as quickly as the top two.
So what the Peak and Yellowly, or the teams, if you like, Dams and Comtech will be looking at now, they'll know a cumulative time that it takes for a pit stop, and they'll be managing that gap accordingly. So they'll be looking at the pace of, well, Bianchi's not really in the equation, but the pace of Courjus and Grubmuller.
Okay, nobody has stopped up until now has been below a 1 minute 27. We've had a first 1:26 lap from Grubmuller and a 1:25.9 from Negrão. Those are the fastest laps by anybody in fresh tyres. All the others, 1:26s, 1:27s. The Dams car coming alongside.
Resty.
He puts in the move on Marchenko into the first corner, and that is a change for 17th.
I mean, Marchenko making it difficult there for Foresti. I mean, Foresti was alongside, and it looked like it was going to get nasty at one stage, and banging wheels at 160 miles an hour is not what you want to be doing, but thankfully both cars through unscathed. Yeah, so the gap now between those that have stopped and at the front is about 35 seconds, so that's enough for a pit stop. And going purple as well, and Artur Pick, as Pick, our leader's in now, so this is it.
Artur Pick, the race leader, is in for Dams, being very cautious there, not to just go shooting straight through. Left rear goes on.
Good stop by the
Barely even looked like the gun went into the rim. That was really good stuff.
Is that
and
Yellowly?
Through goes Bianchi.
Is that Yellowly?
Yes, he's on pit road as well. Nick Yellowly in second place for Comtech. And there he is, you can see in the background as the cameraman and director miss it. Artur Pick comes out. So Jules Bianchi and Carlos Huertas, both yet to stop, have gone through. They are first and second. And Pick is the best of our stoppers. Where is Yellowly going to come out, though? He went in behind Artur Pick by 2 seconds, and he stalled the engine, and that is an unmitigated disaster.
I thought that was him stuck in the pit lane. I was pointing at the screen, but you couldn't see, and oh, my heart sinks for Nick Yellowly, because that is second place gone.
Well, look who's just gone through. That was Foresti and Marchenko went through. He went in second, comes out in 18th place.
So the anti-stall not working there. These cars do have anti-stall. Very rare to see the car completely shut off. So
I wonder if it works when you're holding the pit lane speed limiter button and think, you know, there's all these interlinking things.
He might have run out of air pressure.
Yeah. Car's not actually looking wildly quick. It is not the fastest part of the track, but on the other hand, it seems to be back up to speed. So that's all played very nicely for Jules Bianchi, who in the first couple of corners looked as if he'd thrown it away.
Yeah, but he's yet to stop. If it pans out the way it has so far, it's about 28 seconds for a stop. Well, he's going to be down in
He
16.
and Carlos Huertas are both still lapping quicker than anybody on new tyres.
Yeah, I know, but it's going to take about 26 seconds for him to stop.
But don't forget, all the others have all spent 26 seconds stopping as well, so he won't come back in front of Peak, but on the other hand, he might come out in the top 4
10.
or 5.
Might come out in the top 10.
Well, look at the gaps behind. 26 seconds is 8th place Antonio Felix da Costa. And that is bad news for Jan Cunha. It could also be very bad news for Jules Bianchi, because if the safety car comes out now, his lead vanishes and Plan A goes completely AWOL.
He's far enough off track. You just spun to the inside by the looks of it.
Yeah, however, if he's spun off there, there's no way to guarantee that nobody else is going to spin off there.
I don't know, he's just juiced it up, hasn't he, and spun off to the inside.
Again, you know, riding over the curbs. It's not been wet particularly in the last 24 hours, but Bianchi needs... Now the team really need to keep their wits about them, because he is going as quickly as he's been, but into the pits comes Jules Bianchi. See, they're fearing a safety car is going to come out, I think.
Where's he going to come out? That's the million-dollar question. So our argument's about to be settled. But hopefully a good start by the Tech 1 team. They're very professional, very efficient.
Carlos Huertas will not pick up the point as race leader. You don't get that here. Across the line goes Artur Peak. So that is the car that is now in 2nd place. Show us Bianchi, thank you. Left rear. So he was ready to go and the tyre wasn't on. And I wonder whether that was part of the problem. Three goes to Costa. Will Stevens will be the blue car. That is Will Stevens, so he comes back out in 9th place.
I said top 10.
Yeah, well, it's 9th.
Oh, 1 out.
9th place after his pit stop for Jules Bianchi. So let's see what he can do from there. And of course, Carlos Huertas yet to stop, which will promote him into 8th. Battle there between Joel Amberg and Daniel Mauve, who stalled at the start. Amberg got by, and Mauve trying to get by him for 11, and Magnussen sees the door open. And poor Joel Amberg got squeezed out there a little, didn't he? Artur Pic then in 2nd place on the road behind Carlos Huertas. And Huertas yet to stop. And Pic with a handy lead over Walter Grubmuller in 2nd place effectively. And Andre Negrão looking down the barrel of a 3rd place finish, which is what he did in the wet weather in the Nürburgring, where he led towards the end of the race.
Yeah, all credit to Walter Grubmuller and Andre Negrão. They pitted early, so they were the ones that took the risk.
Huertas is in, Pic leads the race, left rear again not working. What is it with the left rear gun?
Well, it's not the gun, it'll be the nut. So they're obviously generating some heat. It might be a heat issue. I don't know. You know, these things come and go, these problems.
Well, it's an anti-clockwise circuit, so you would think that the left rear would be the one that suffers least. Maybe it's not hot enough. Who knows? Yeah, I know.
It's getting back on.
Look at that.
It's the threat.
Look at that. That is really bad news for Jules Bianchi. Carlos Huertas squeaked just back out in front of him. So despite that left rear problem, actually Huertas got out faster than Bianchi, because Bianchi had that problem as well, where his left rear didn't go on.
Yeah, Bianchi must have had a...
Well, he was up in the air, wasn't he? Desperate to go, revving the engine madly, and they were still trying to get that left rear on.
Yeah, so
it cost him even more time.
Of it is by going longer, Huertas's in-lap was quicker than Bianchi's out-lap, and that's where he's gained the time. Well, also, he spent less time with his left rear problem. Bianchi was cost with his left rear problem, because it was inches, wasn't it? Yeah, there'll be more time. It looked as though Huertas was actually a scrappier stop, didn't it, in the Tech 1? So there's got to be time in that in and out lap for Bianchi there, because Bianchi's dropped into the clutches of Aleshin, so I just don't think his out lap was that quick. No, entirely possible. Artur Pic is again our race leader from Walter Grubmuller and Andre Negrão on board with Mikhail Alishin. Now, hands up who would have picked that as our podium at the end.
Yes, that's a big winner there if you got those three. Kevin Corsius 4th, Alexander Rossi 5th, and his teammate Antonio Felix da Costa in 6th, ahead of Will Stevens, Jules Bianchi and Alishin. Carlos Huertas coming out in 10th. 8th place must be, so this is the battle for 9th and 10th.
So Frines out of the points at the moment, so points going
14th place.
Yeah.
So of the top 5 coming in here, Robin Frines, the points leader, not going to score. Sam Bird in 2nd, not going to score. Marco Sorensen in 3rd, not going to score. Jules Bianchi in 4th, might score.
In 8th.
Nick Yellowly, no, 4th in the points coming in here. 5th in the points coming in here. All the words in the sentence are important. Nick Yellowly, not going to score. 6th in points coming in here. Kevin Magnussen, 11th at the moment, possibly also not going to score. So of the top half dozen drivers, only Jules Bianchi has actually got the opportunity at the moment to score a point. Blimey.
Well, he was in the wars, wasn't he, over that first lap, but has managed to somehow keep it going with the majority of the parts still attached to his car, and with good pace as well. So, you know, we saw this in Motorland Aragon again, a recovering drive, but it almost shouldn't be a recovering drive. He's good enough not to keep getting involved in these sorts of problems.
We've had 6 different race winners so far this season, Tom, none of whom are in the top 3.
No, we've had 2 double winners, haven't we? Nick Yellowly and Robin Frines made himself the 2nd double winner, and well, I've got written on my notes here, can Jules Bianchi make it the 3rd double winner? And obviously he can't, so...
Okay, well, if Pick wins... Yellowly off again. If Pick wins, new winner. If Grubmuller wins, new winner this year. If Negrão wins, new winner this year. If Corsius wins, new winner this year. If Rossi wins, new winner this year. If Da Costa wins, new winner this year.
You've got to carry it on now.
Will Stevens, ditto. So unless Bianchi wins, who's 8th at the moment, as Yellowly flies out wide there, then trying to get by Nikolai Marchenko. Unless Bianchi wins it from 8th, we are going to have a 7th different race winner. Dives inside, and just... that was the last corner, and he went off again having a go at the first corner, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's obviously pushing hard, getting frustrated behind Marzenko, because he will know, that Yellowly, Bianchi, it's a missed opportunity in terms of scoring.
Carlos Huertas. The timing screen seems to have died. It's gone,
Huertas and Stevens into turn 1. Bianchi right behind them, looking to capitalise, almost gets his nose chopped off by Will Stevens. Stevens going defensive, and Bianchi there just looking rather expectant on the back of that gaggle of cars, isn't he? He's looking for a way through, and Stevens now having to go defensive rather than attack Huertas. So his role is very much reversed. Martin tries to...
So I've gone to backup B. We're on the old timing because live timing beta has died. It's still looking difficult here, isn't it, for Jules Bianchi?
So Stevens lost that place to Huertas.
Yes, Huertas is in a bit of a groove at the moment, having spun off on his own yesterday. He's now up to 7th place, ahead of Will Stevens in 8th.
So when we panned to them on the start and finish straight, it was actually Huertas passing Stevens rather than Stevens looking racy on Huertas. And Bianchi, like I said, looking expectant. Cars have spread out now, and it looks as though Bianchi will be looking to pass Stevens rather than Stevens trying to get past Huertas at this stage.
And this is the closest battle in the field, apart from Robin Frines behind Jake Rosenzweig and Nick Yellowly trying to get by Nikolai Marchenko.
Bianchi's on a mission now, so if he sends it up the inside...
Oh, Bianchi!
He's going to lose a place. Alishin, no. Look, he's robust, isn't he, Bianchi? He's
robust stroke weaving.
Yeah, he's the man you want to stay away from at this stage in the race, because he's only got one view, and that's going forward. And if you try and pass him or block him, he's going to test the rule book, shall I say.
Well, either his spatial awareness is not good, because he didn't see Arthur peak at all at the start, according to you, or he's having a bit of a touch of the Nico Rosbergs, neither of which I think is particularly to be recommended in perhaps a future Ferrari driver, although obviously Ferrari have got previous in that and won't really care as long as he wins races.
Yeah, the straight wasn't quite long enough there for Aleshin, and the braking zone into turn 1 meant that he couldn't really capitalise on the run that he got. I think he did have to lift because Bianchi was pretty robust with that defensive move, but he did give him enough room. But that was Schumacher's debate with Barrichello, wasn't it, in Hungary?
Yeah.
Just millimetres enough.
Well, you see, the difference there is that Barrichello was fully alongside Schumacher and he tried to paste him up against the wall anyway. At that stage, Aleshin was trying to get a run on Bianchi and he was weaving more wildly than anybody you've seen on the M25. So Arthur Pic is our race leader from Walter Grubmuller by 7 seconds, and Pic again another fastest race lap, 1 minute 25.48, faster than anybody has gone. Will Stevens, another quick run from him. Drive-through penalty for Antonio Felix da Costa for what we are not sure.
Speedy in the pit lane, maybe?
Could be.
I can't
certainly won't be for weaving, will it?
Yeah, I can't see for any other reason, because we haven't really seen him getting involved in anything. And
well, we haven't really seen him full stop, have we? Oh dear! Is that...
That's
Frines, yeah, I was going to say, is that Frines facing the wrong way?
And now he's spun it again.
Well, no, because he was
again, trying to get back on the track.
He was battling Jake Rosenzweig across the line. Jake was just 4 tenths behind him.
Yeah, but I don't think he was side. But it'll be interesting to see a replay of that. But
well, no, but I'm saying he was 4 tenths behind him, coming across the line. He may well have caught him and tagged him into a spin.
Right,
let's have a look. There's
no, he's all by himself. I told you. Look, he's just gone in too deep.
Richard Dutton looking a little bit perplexed there and puzzled, and absolutely right.
And that shows how little grip there is offline. He's gone in too deep, and as soon as he's tried to come off the brakes and turn the car, it's just swapped ends that easily, because there's no mechanical grip. The tyres will only grip to the surface, and if there's dust and muck.
Richard Dutton doesn't know what's going on because their timing screens have died as well. They do not have timing screens on the perch there, so
it's been intermittent power cuts all over the weekend, hasn't it, since Friday when one of the major cables was drilled through. And we haven't seen a dog yet. We saw a dog on Friday and a dog on Saturday.
I have to say, it is disappointing. 4.5 minutes remaining, plus 1 lap. Arthur Pic is our race leader by now 8 seconds from Walter Grubmuller, and 12 seconds off the lead is Andre Negrão in third. Arthur Pic for Dams, leading the race here into the closing stages. So much so good. Walter Grubmuller is in second, but what we'd actually like to see is the battle that is shaping up for third place. Andre Negrão, Kevin Courjus and Alexander Rossi, covered by a little over 1.1 seconds. There it is in the background. Look, TV director, see those 3 cars together at the back? That would be interesting. We've seen quite a few laps now, the leader on his own.
Now, Negrão is in uncharted territory, so he will be on the back foot. He'll go defensive as Rossi's having a look at Courjus. Courjus not gonna fall for that. Yeah, it's a real tough break for Negrão now, because Courjus and Rossi, 2 robust and very talentedly fast drivers behind him. It's going to be difficult, as da Costa hasn't taken his drive through yet, has he? No. It's going to be difficult to keep those guys behind him, as Bianchi all over the back of Stevens. Look how close they were there. Stevens moved to the inside just to cover that, and Bianchi kind of mirrored him there, and he was right up the back of Stevens' gearbox. You see so often, not at this level, but people, and that's where Frines spun there, Bianchi getting big oversteer, but you see people lose their braking spot very easy when you're that close to a car in front. Bianchi.
Well, this is the last corner at the end of the long straight. Bianchi trying to go outside, inside.
The switchback, but it didn't work.
He got a good run though, didn't he? He got plenty of traction there. And he's put Will Stevens under pressure. This is then the battle for third with 3 minutes plus a lap, and Courjus up the inside. And again, Negrão using the racing line, door was open. Courjus had clearly planned that before and was going to go.
Yeah, we saw that move yesterday. That's one of the major places to pass, and Courjus kind of set him up like a kipper there, and Negrão didn't see it coming. As
Courjus all over the curbs. Here comes Negrão and Rossi.
But you kind of felt that, I was trying to sort of intimate that you kind of felt Negrão might. He gets a run on him.
Yes, gave it all away. In comes Da Costa for his drive-through, and Courjus nearly gave that all away. And did Rossi's nose actually touch Negrão's gearbox there? Rossi placed to have a look inside the first corner. Doesn't feel he's got the grip to do it, though.
No, the braking zone's not big enough there, but yeah, Rossi will be looking to get past Negrão as quickly as possible to have a look at Courjus if that's possible. But yeah, you just felt that Negrão was going to be slightly bullied by these two because, you know, they've got so many tricks up their sleeve, haven't they? Courjus and Rossi, very talented guys, as Da Costa's race is effectively done, and Frines finally makes his way back past Martsenko, recovering from this year.
Absolutely. So Robin Frines up to 18th place. And you think, well, what's the point? Well, the point is he's a racing driver. You keep on racing as long as there's some chance of going round with the car. Peak leads from Grubmuller, the battle for third, headed by Kevin Courjus. Old timing has now died as well, so we'll shut that off and reboot it in a moment. Kevin Courjus was still third. Okay, Frines, our championship leader, coming in. Okay, that's enough of that now. Let's go back to the battle for third, because that's where the podium places are decided. Okay, there's Jean-Paul Driot, the Dams team boss. Okay, I think we've documented that he's still leading with a minute to go, plus a lap. Let's go back to the battle for third.
This has gone back in time, hasn't it? Because our timing's
timing's died. It doesn't matter, we've got 3 laps to go. There's the battle for third. Courjus still in front of Negrão and Rossi.
So Alexander will be looking to get past Negrão just for those points, and it's been a good showing. And I'm really pleased, you can probably hear in my voice, to see Courjus and Rossi back up at the front, because, okay, I know that they benefited from other people's bad luck, but, you know, if we can introduce these two to the championship battle, I know they're behind in points, but for races to come, then my word, what a battle that's going to be.
Alexander Rossi, best result of the season, third place in Monaco. Courjus has had 2 fourth-place finishes. Now, Courjus, a 3-time winner, has not even sniffed the podium. Well, he's not been on the podium. He's been close, but not on it this year. And Alexander Rossi, he's had 2 race wins last year as well. And the closest he's come is the Monaco podium. Great podium to be on, but it doesn't really lift him out of the depression of not having good qualifying runs and not having good race runs. So this actually, you know, consistent race might help them a little bit in direction at the Ardrum Caterham team.
It's a moving target for Ardrum Caterham. They're consistently learning and learning, and okay, it might not be as fast as they would like at the moment, but Rossi will be pleased with leaving Moscow ahead of his teammate. He's outperformed Felix Da Costa comfortably today and done a good job, and that will mean, as Bianchi gets very, very wide coming onto that straight away. Did you see that?
He did, yes, playing with fire there. And look how much Huertas has left Bianchi. Don't forget that Bianchi was 2 inches off the back of Huertas's car after pit stops, and Huertas is right up with these guys. And if we had timing, I could probably tell you how quickly he was going as well, but I can't. So he's right with...
He's going quicker than the cars in front.
He is going quicker than the cars in front.
No, he's done a great job, actually, Huertas. His pace in this final stage of the race as someone locks up. Who's that? That's Courjus locking up. Is he still there? Yes, he is.
He is, but it shows, again, still at the end of the weekend, how dirty the track is offline. Bearing in mind, nobody has ever raced on this before. Nobody's ever driven on this before in any kind of competition or even testing. So this is the first time rubber and tarmac have come into play with racing cars attached.
I'm guessing this is the last lap, by the way.
Well, it did say 30 seconds plus 1 lap, which suggests to me that it's not the last lap.
But normally we have
well, we normally have a last lap graphic as well, don't we?
No,
could be the last lap. You could well be right, because we don't have timing and scoring. I wonder if their timing's gone as well.
I don't know.
In the graphics truck. Last lap. What, now, or starting, or finishing?
No, it is.
It is the checkered flag. We stumble across the line there, ladies and gentlemen. You don't get that from Peter O'Sullivan, do you? Kevin Magnussen doesn't win it. It is Arthur Pick for Dams who wins it. It's P1, not Car 1. That's Walter Grubmuller in second place. Back there somewhere.
Courjus, Negrão, Rossi.
Negrão, Rossi and Huertas are the top half dozen. Okay, do the maths. Nobody scored apart from... Let's see, where's Bianchi? Come on, Bianchi 7th. Do the math, add up, add up. Bianchi now moves into sole 3rd place, and that's the only change. That is the only change in the top 5 or 6 in points. Oh, Eric Comas there on the pit wall. At Dams, do I mean Eric Comas? I think I do. There's Robin Freins and Nick Yellerly, 2 guys, the championship leader and the man who came to this race weekend in 3rd and was 5th after yesterday's race, neither of whom score. Sam Bird doesn't score.
Yeah, Bianchi moves into 3rd, but he's still he's about 15 points still behind Sam Bird in 2nd. So
where did he finish? In 8th place? That's 4 points, because I know you haven't got that far.
Yeah.
So he's now on 83 to 101 of Sam Bird, so still the better part of 20 points behind. But 25 points for Artur Pick, his career first World Series by Renault win. Best result of the season also for the podium finishers behind him. Welcome back to Moscow Raceway, where Artur Pick is our 7th different race winner of the season in Formula Renault 3.5. His best ever career result, ditto for Walter Grubmuller in 2nd place, and for Kevin Courjus, his first time on the podium this year. Andre Negrão, 4th position, ahead of Alexander Rossi in 5th and Carlos Huertas in 6th position. Points going down to Kevin Magnussen in 10th spot, but no points for Sam Bird, Marco Sorensen and Robin Freins and Nick Yellerly, 4 of our top half dozen drivers coming in to this race. So only Magnussen in 10th and Bianchi in 8th of the top 6 scored a point.
Artur, congratulations. Finally, your first win of the season, and what a race.
Yeah, what a race. There was a big crash on the second corner. I can go on the left and be first after the first lap. There's a long sequence of safety car, and the car was really good. I can make the gap just after the safety car. The pit stop was also very fast, and yeah, the car was amazing. So it's my first win after 2 pole position in Motorland, so I'm very happy.
Merci.
Neil Cole there with Artur Pick, as he said, crazy opening period, long session behind the safety car, and then a nice clean pit stop. And that is something that very few people in the field managed to have. Now watch Artur on the left of your picture with the yellow colours of Dams. Bianchi either doesn't see him or takes his eye off the main rival, which is the Lotus car in the middle, blocks Pick. Craziness behind. Then the Lotus and Marco Sorensen and Bianchi make contact. Through goes Peak and Robin Freins, who was at that stage in 2nd place as Bianchi dropped down the field. But the madness was not yet over.
Da Costa.
And that may well be why Da Costa ended up with a drive-through penalty, although I would think that's very harsh. On board a little further back as both Lotuses go off. That was Freins getting eased off there by Sorensen, which I don't think I picked up the last time. Lotuses and Sam Bird making contact. By that stage, we had 7 cars off the track.
Birdie was up the inside of Sorensen. That might have been why he was running wide.
Could well have been. It's so dirty. If you go inside people here, chances are you're not going to make it round the corner. If you go outside them, chances are very high. Now, at the restart, it was Peak from Nick Yellerly and Kevin Courjus. Contact further back in the pack.
So Jan Koenen was taken out.
Yeah, he was.
Turn 1, he didn't just drive off.
Alexander Rossi, fresh out of the pits, battling with Kevin Courjus, who'd stopped a lap earlier, and Courjus getting the advantage there.
Rossi will feel hard done by there. He was around the outside, but Courjus couldn't keep the car tight enough and just ran into the American and just eased him off. So Rossi will feel hard done by. And probably quite rightfully so. Racing incident, though.
Dreadful pit stop for Nick Yellerly, dropped him way out of contention from being a shoe-in for a podium. And Artur Pick, everything went well. The Dams team performed flawlessly, the car performed flawlessly, and of course I don't mean Eric Comas, I mean in the white shirt Eric Bernard. Too many Erics as French Grand Prix drivers in the 1980s, that's what I'm saying. He's there as one of the driver coaches for Dams, and of course Jean-Paul Driot, the veteran team boss of Dams. Damn, so pleased to see them back to their winning ways over the last couple of seasons. Arthur Pick now up to 6th in the points as well, ahead of Kevin Magnussen even. And Courjus down to 9th. Courjus, oh dear, he's really not having much of a time of it. So the top order has barely changed.
Look how close it is at the top of the teams.
Yeah, 2 points in it between former champions Tech 1 and the upcoming Fortec. They are really having... Last couple of years for Fortec, in just about every championship they've been in, they have really been on it. They are having such a good time. Onto the podium then comes Kevin Courjus. First time this season for a man who won 3 races last year and was a definite title candidate. There's the Tech 1 team. Second place for P1, Walter Grubmüller. Shut up, Walter. His best result in World Series by Renault competition. And ditto for Arthur Pick, his first win. He is our 7th different winner. How many more are we going to have this year?
He deserves it as well.
Yeah.
He's driven really well in the qualifying.
Jean-Paul Driot comes to collect the trophy for Dams. Dams. And here is our winner's anthem. Someone get the telephone. What was that ringing? Jean-Paul Driot, Dams. Just for those who don't know, Dams, Driot Arnoux Motorsport. It was the team he started with René Arnoux, in the same way that sort of Fisichella Motorsport was started. And if Blanca says so, then I'm going with that. Blanca de Foronda just saying that it is also a first World Series by Renault win for Dams as a team. So congratulations to all concerned. Tech 1 will be happy to get Kevin Courjus back on the podium, as will Gravity Driver Management, because they really need to give his career a bit of a shot in the arm at the moment. Walter Grubmüller to take 2nd place. Hopefully our Russian circuit announcer is going to have a couple of days off work after this, because he will be gabbling 19 to the dozen, has been since about 8 o'clock in the morning, will be all the way through to about 6 o'clock this evening. It's a long, busy weekend, World Series, and Arthur Pick, our race winner, receives the trophy from the head of Renault Sport Technology, Patrice Ratti, who was among the dignitaries opening this circuit officially this morning, just before the cars left the pit lane. And the Constructors' Trophy goes to Jean-Paul Driot. Had some happy and slightly tearful faces down at Dams. Come on, Jean-Paul, get in the photo as well. He's the architect of so much success, was one of the great teams of Formula 3000. For those of you that aren't young enough, that aren't old enough to remember that, ask your fathers. And a very strong team in GP2 and in World Series by Renault now. And he's not been around that long to get caught in a champagne shower, has he, Tom? He's far too clever for any of that old nonsense.
Yeah, not many of the guys really choosing to go too mental with the champagne, but...
Well, 3 first-time podium finishers this season and our 7th different winner. Tom, next time out, they are at Silverstone in Great Britain, and for British fans, that's the end of August 25th and 26th. The Olympics will be open. Go to the WorldSeriesByRenault.com website, get free tickets. Doesn't matter if it rains, there is something for everyone. Hours and hours of racing action and loads of fun. We'll see you then. You be at Silverstone. Bye for now.